Bonjour, je m'appelle Ellen, aussi connue à Mimi, et vous écoutez Native as I Can Be avec Gino Ray. Enjoyez!
Who's the podcast host that you love the most? Coming to you live from coast to coast. Call me Thunderlip, Spaceman, or G. It's just me being native as I can be.
All right, so we just left off at I was drinking at the bar in my early 20s in the middle of the afternoon, and I got a phone call. The phone call was from my homie Rigo, who recorded the episode I did with Jason Moore. And he's been busting his ass and edited the whole thing for me. I want to point out he filmed for free, and now he's edited for free, and he deserves a premium rate, and he's doing a big time hookup for me. So, man, yeah, I owe him a ton for the work he's doing because, yeah, it's just the hugest favor anybody could offer me. Other than like a kidney. But anyway, props to Rigo. I think this will be kind of a part two of the first thing because I was already 45 minutes in and was not even halfway through my life yet. So anyway. Yeah, so in my early 20s, I was saying there, I was drinking a lot, partying a lot. I was just doing what I thought I should be doing in my 20s, which is, not untrue, but it was getting to a dark place. And I was really confused about my identity at the time because, I've always been very proudly Native, and I just knew that with Natives, there was a struggle involved, and I should be proud to be from a lineage of people that have made it through that struggle, or and so in my early 20s, the stereotypical Indian was this washout, burnout, drunk, fighting, crazy, whatever. And consciously or unconsciously, I decided I was going to be that because I thought that's what I was supposed to be when it came to being Native. And so that's what I was. And I thought I was portraying a character basically, but eventually I became the character and I was just the crazy drunk Indian out here running around, doing whatever, getting crazy, getting arrested, obviously, fighting, all the shit. And, I lost who I was. I didn't know who I was. There was no one to lose. I didn't know. I was just didn't know who I was. And that was and then I also dated a girl who was not good for me. And I actually had my first period of sobriety, which lasted a little over a year when I was dating her because the problems in our relationship were my drinking. And if you're listening to this, my drinking is in quotes because we were both drinking like maniacs and she continued to drink after I stopped and we continued to have problems. So at some point I made the decision after she had broke up with me for about the billionth time that I was going to leave. And so I remember her just, calling me after basically throwing me out of the apartment we had and being like, well, aren't you coming back now? And not this time. She's like, but you usually come back. And I'm like, you broke up with me. You told me to get out. And so I'm leaving. And I knew I couldn't stay in Idaho because we would just do the same thing over and over again. So I hopped on a Greyhound to Portland and was here in Portland for a little bit, staying at my uncle's house with my dad and uncle. And eventually found my way down to Los Angeles, California, where I shared an apartment with my friend Kobe, who I had actually met and worked with in Idaho. And there's going to be more to this Kobe story in a little bit. I mean, he shares the name of my little brother, even spelled the same. So already you can see things are a little light. But he knew the stuff that was happening in my relationship, and me and him had talked before I even left, and was still in the mix. And he's like, you need to just come down here, dude. Just come down here. We'll get a place. I'm working in the industry now. You could do your thing, acting, whatever you want to do. But like, he's like, you need to get out of there. Just do it. And so I just decided to do it and moved to LA with a car full of some clothes. That was pretty much it. And started over in Los Angeles. And this is another part of the story where you can see how big an effect alcohol has had. Because when I went to LA, I had a lot of money in my pocket and didn't have to work right away. And I was able to kind of just sort out the acting thing. And all I sorted out was how to put on a bunch of weight drinking and not doing shit. I mean, I went to acting classes, some pretty intense ones that were like 4 hours a day for couple months at a time. I did some background work and some stuff in like music videos. But I was so concerned. I was more focused on just getting hammered ass drunk as often as I could. And, I thought it was a party, but it shouldn't have been a party. It should not have been a party. It should have been, you've got an opportunity in front of you to have everything you want, whatever that was. And I squandered it big time because I was getting drunk all the time. And I lived up above this, me and Kobe lived up above this lesbian bar called Oxwood Inn, but we called it the Oxbow. And, I was in there all the time. And I was buying rounds left and right. And if I wasn't down there, I was at another bar in my house. And, it was just a wasted opportunity. And because one thing I can say without getting too ahead of myself here is the things that I've tried in life, I've had some success at. I just haven't picked the one thing yet. And so being able to go to LA and be able to do some gigs, and when I've done music, I've been able to do a couple shows, and the music that me and Kobe have produced was getting some plays at the time on MySpace. And this podcast has had some success previously, and it's having some success now. And mixed martial arts, I was 5 wins, 1 loss, and I never even wanted to be in mixed martial artists. So like, I could find a way, and I blew it. And I think in a lot of ways it damaged, it's sort of, me and Kobe were really tight, and we are still really tight, but I also think that my drinking got in the way of that relationship a lot too. Because who wants to have a drunk for a roommate, right? And he was working, I was not, and it wasn't like he was floating me or anything, but it's just, I don't think it's a good thing. It just created a weird energy. But I met my best friend Shiva, my best friend, still my best friend. We text every day. Met her in LA, and so it's not a total loss, obviously, but a couple of years I was there, and at some point my sister Jen and I decided that maybe I should go to Idaho and kind of like just mellow out a little bit. and kind of get my head back on straight. And so, and there's so much more to the LA story that I could go into because it wasn't just alcohol when I was in LA. And the Oxbow became this, it was like Korea all over again. It was like everything I wanted was right there, and it was downstairs. And there were some crazy stories that came out of that place. And for a short while, I was ensconced in the lesbian community in Los Angeles. People knew who I was. And that's an interesting place to be. Yeah, and I'm still friends with some people I've met down there. But yeah, again, drinking, dominating the scene, dominating my life. And I was, again, in my 20s. Not some gnarly old dude on the side of the road with a bottle of Mad Dog. Right? In my 20s, already in deep. But, when I was a teenager, that didn't even occur to me that that could happen. I thought you had to be a certain age and look a certain way and have certain stipulations to be an alcoholic, you know. And I was a full-blown alcoholic and didn't even know it. And didn't even consider it. I thought I just liked to drink more than other people. That's the alcoholic brain, right? Justifying and telling lies, rationalizing, whatever, gets you to keep going. So I may talk. I kind of want to do an episode with Kobe where we just kind of tell his story and our story, but then play some of the music we made together and react to it. And I just think that would be a fun episode. And the music was good. I liked it. But I think listening back to it now, we might, it's a little bit like watching an old, home movie as somebody, when you're a kid running around and falling down in the yard. Like, I think we would like it, but I think we'd be a little bit embarrassed by it, maybe. I don't know. It'd be a good episode. I'm gonna talk about it. So anyways, going back to Idaho, I felt a little bit, I was disappointed in myself, right? Because I've been given this opportunity. I blew it. Now I'm going back to Idaho, of all places, to go from Los Angeles to Idaho, right? It's just, I didn't love Idaho my first time around. I didn't anticipate loving it the second time around, especially when it felt like I was going back with my tail tucked between my legs, like I couldn't make it out in the real world, right? And so I went to stay with my sister, and there was no like, you can stay as long as you don't drink. You have to do this, you have to do that. It was just, come on back. And I mean, I did get a job, but I was still drinking. But I met my sister Jen's friend, Fania. And according to my sister Jen, what she said to Fania was, like, don't look him in the eye. Don't look him in the eye. His eyes are too pretty, whatever. Like, and I think Jen said to me, stay away from Fania. Leave her alone. She's got her own thing going. Okay. And then me and Fania met. And I do remember there being a little bit of a extra lingering glance between us. And then I don't remember how she got my number, but there was still, the classic late night, you up kind of a text. And, things happened. And a short while later, a few weeks or whatever, however she gave you the news that she was pregnant. I don't really remember. And I remember going to the doctor with her to confirm it. And I also remember um, after the appointment, driving back home with my sister Jen and Fanya calling, and me and her trying to figure out if the math was right, because however far along she was, we were both like, but does that match up with when I hooked up with you? Like, maybe it's some, and I didn't really want to be the dad. I don't think she wanted me to be the dad because I was a drunken washout staying in my sister's garage at that point. Like, not exactly like primo material, right? And we were both trying to figure out, like, maybe it's not me, maybe it is. I don't know. Um, so for the and so for the first couple months of the pregnancy, I was involved, doing the appointments and stuff. But you know, I was still a drunk, and I was still in my own head, in my own world, and very selfish. And so I just kind of phased out. And at some point, moved out of my sister's. I think she moved out of state actually, and or maybe to a different part of the state. And so I was living in Boise, sharing a place with my nephew, working at Circuit City, and Fanya went into labor and had to call the store because I hadn't even paid my phone bill. So she called the store and told the store, somebody, whoever answered, to tell me that she was going into labor. So I remember I worked in the warehouse part at that time. And this young girl coming back and being like, somebody just called and left a message for you that they're on their way to the hospital. Like, she thought it was a prank. And I was like, oh shit. And so I got a hold of my boss. I was like, I gotta go, dude. I can't be here. And I was scheduled for the whole day, and I just bailed and went to the hospital, and nobody told Fanya I was there. So, and she had like a closed room, like she didn't want anybody coming in. And so I sat out in the lobby all day and just waited and waited. And then finally they came out and were like, hey, it's a boy or whatever, which I knew. And so I came in, and she's like, wow, did you just get here? And I was like, I've been here literally since like 9 this morning, sitting out here. So I missed the whole delivery basically. And, and this is where this story gets real. Very bright, and then very dark, and then very bright again. So they handed me Che, and I remember looking in his eyes, and because I've been really, I wasn't even sure if this was my kid, and I kind of checked out of the pregnancy the last couple months, and I was really uncertain about what was going to be in my future. And Fanya made it clear she didn't really care if I was around. I could have split back to LA if I felt like it, and I don't think, so they handed me not Che, Bams. And I remember people telling me, oh, once you hold that kid, you'll know. And it's going to be this, revelatory moment. And they handed him to me. I didn't feel anything. And I just was like, I didn't see some immediate resemblance. And I noticed something was off with his eyes, and I'll get into that in a second, but I just looked at him and I was like, I don't feel anything. I don't feel this instant connection to this kid. And it kind of felt like an inconvenience, honestly. And, but it was pretty clear after he was born that something was not right. And, they do a series of little tests when a child's born, and, they're doing the hearing thing. Nothing was happening. And you could see by his eyes that something was wrong. And what I found out later is that was called, it's like a keyhole, basically, eye, where the black part of your eye wasn't in the center, it was down at the bottom. And, uh, there was just some stuff wrong. And so they knew they had him in the PQ for quite a while. And what they eventually figured out was that he had Char syndrome, which is a genetic disorder. It's pretty rare. Basically affects his heart, his eyes, his ears, his growth. He was going to have a hard time. And so think about, this is part of the story I don't share very often. And I'm about to share it with everybody. So here we go. So Che had to be flown to Salt Lake City from Boise for surgery, for heart surgery. And I had to miss that surgery because a couple weeks after he was born, I had decided to do what I do and go out drinking again. And went to the bar, decided to go to another bar. He got pulled over and got DUI number 3. And this time, this was the big one. This is the one where they're going to keep you for a while. And so while my son is in Salt Lake City getting cut open and fighting for his life, I was in county jail like a fucking bum, like a fucking loser, because I was still more concerned about drinking than I was him. I hate this part of the story. It had to have been one of the most selfish periods of my life, because he was still in the hospital and I was out drinking and carrying on like it was nothing. And it's such a shameful period, man. It's just, I'm proud of it, man. So I stayed in jail for, I think, 4 months and got out. And from that arrest, whatever night that was, I didn't have a drink again for 5 years. So basically, aside from the first couple weeks, for 5 years, the first 5 years of his life, I never had a drink. While I was in jail, they did a paternity test, which was basically just to establish child support. And, the paternity test came back 99.9998% mine. So I went into jail unsure, and came out knowing, but was also still like, what do I owe this kid or her? Like, I didn't ask for this, blah, blah, blah. But it started off just going to her house on Sundays and spending some time with them. He still had all these medical problems. He couldn't talk, he couldn't hear, his growth was stunted, all that shit. And so he had to sleep with oxygen tanks. And So I just would go up there on Sundays and get to know him and be around him. And that feeling I had the first time Helen was gone, I was really starting to get attached. And then that turned into weekends at my house, every other weekend. And, once I kind of, and here's the other thing. I think if I had bailed and gone back to LA or whatever, even stayed in Boise and had nothing to do with him or Fanyan, nobody would have been surprised. I think that's what everybody expected. So there was a part of me that was not drinking and being involved in his life just for spite, just because everybody thought I was going to fuck it up. Because at that point, that's all I had done. I had kind of been a fuck up up to that. So, the next few years, the first 5 or 6 years of his life were pretty uneventful. He had a lot of surgeries and there were a lot of scares. He used to kind of have these seizures where he would stop breathing and, he would like bite on his tongue super hard and start turning purple and crazy shit. And you would have to kind of like snap him out of it basically to get in, put the oxygen thing on his face. And, so there was a lot of times at the hospital. If he got sick, it would be a big deal. Like I remember he got sick one time, it was in the hospital a month. And there was a stretch of time, because I had started going to school at that point, where I would stay at the hospital, get up at like 5 a.m, go to my house, take a shower, go to work for 2 hours, go to class, go back to work for the rest of my shift, go back to school from 6 to 9, and then at 9, I would head over to the hospital and stay the night with him again. And this went on for a couple, 2 or 3 weeks. I did that cycle, and because fun, you could do it during the day. But yeah, so a lot of time in the hospital, a lot of time. But me and him were so tight too. Like, even though he couldn't talk, he could communicate. And, we just spent so much time just at the park or walking up and down the Greenbelt or walking downtown Boise or wrestling or, if I was anywhere in the house, like near him, he had to be on me, touching me or whatever. Like we were very, very well connected, and him and Fanya were like 100 times that. And Fanya had 3 other kids, and 2 older and then one that came after him. And she was managing all those kids and all their sports schedules and this and that. And, as she managed to do all that. And I just had him a couple days a week. And so I was still living my best life and getting to have this little homie every once in a while too. That was a very bright period of time. I wasn't making shit for money at my job. And there was times I went to the church a block away and got like the free food box. Sorry. Oh, how rude. But that was a fun time. I look back on that quite fondly, and I loved that period of time. And he got to be, 5 and 6 and going to school. And I would go pick him up early when I got off of work. And it started off like I'd have to go to the office and sign him out for an appointment, and it was just like, yeah, I just pick him up. I just want to hang out, and eventually they stopped having me sign out. They were just like, go get him, and yeah, that was a really fun time. Che was I keep calling him fucking Che. I mean Bands. Bams was a really bright spot at that point because he was very bubbly and smiling and fun. And despite all the hardships that he'd been through, it was just a joy to be around. He was amazing. And then, some stars shine too bright. He, I think his body had been so taxed in such a short amount of time. Um, it just finally gave out on him. I was sitting at home and I actually think it was funniest. Riley texted me from her phone, like, something's up with Che or whatever, and something's up with Bams. And so I hopped in my car and drove up to her house, and there was, police all around, ambulances and fire trucks and shit. And they didn't want to let me through originally. And I was like, I'm his dad, dude. I came walking up the driveway, and Fanya came out of the house, right? And just hugged me, and it was just like, he's dead, G. He's dead. Um, and her kids were in the back seat of her car. They were crying. So they took him to the emergency room anyway. They were able to resuscitate him basically, but he wasn't doing anything on his own. So we had to make the decision to take him off of life support. Oh man, I hear Che. Che and his friend are out in the living room playing right now. So yeah, we decided to take him off of life support, and it was an easy decision and a hard decision because if we kept him on, that was his life from then on, being on life support, just laying there. If we take him off, we got to say goodbye. So we did what we had to do, and I just remember how weird it was, right? Like we went down to down into the depths of St. Luke's in Boise, Idaho, and I was just in this dark room, and there's a couple nurses there, and he's still kind of on a heart monitor thing. They just start disconnecting stuff, and me and Fanya are there, and she's on one side of him, and I'm on the other side. He's on a little bed, and they just start disconnecting stuff, and they finally get it all disconnected, and we're both just telling them like, it's okay, dude. Like, it's okay, you can go. And he left. And I don't know how long it actually took. If it was 5 minutes, an hour, I don't know. from the time that they disconnected the stuff until they actually passed. I have no clue what that actual amount was, but somehow I can remember every second of it. And I just said, that is it. He was gone. And the next month of my life was an absolute blur. I was so deep in the whiskey bottle, dude. It was out of control. Somebody like me who likes to drink anyway, right? And you add this fuel of my son dying, who had completely reconfigured how I felt about love and caring, and it's now gone. I was a mess, dude. As a result, just I couldn't stay in Idaho anymore. So about a month after he died, I had donated or thrown away pretty much everything I owned. Whatever I had left, I packed into my 97 Jetta. To stay with my sister Jen, and Jen was so helpful. And this is this kind of double-edged sword where like I got here and I already had a job lined up and I already had a place to stay. And, Jen's going to charge me rent, but it's not going to be Portland rent. It's going to be family rent. And so basically all I had to do was maintain the job. And that's all I did. I drank and went to work. And a lot of the times I went to work and drank. And that whole first year after Bams passed away, I mean, I was just a mess. A fucking mess. And pretty much all anybody could do was just stand by and watch and hope I didn't die. And talking to some of my best friends later, they thought I was going to die. They were sure, which is so hard to hear later on, but I understand why. It's just a rough period, man. And I had felt like being a dad was finally something I could do, that I could be proud of, and that I was good at and a natural at. And when that was taken away, I felt like I had nothing left. There was nothing for me to be or do. My best friend was gone. It was hard. And it's just this really dark. And I wasn't suicidal, but I've said this before. Like, I wasn't suicidal, but there was definitely mornings where I woke up and was like, really? I gotta do this again. So, back to my homie Kobe, not my brother, my former roommate in LA. He texts me or whatever calls. It was around his birthday. He's like, hey, I'm doing this kind of road trip up the coast and shit. I'm going to drive through Portland and then over to Idaho to see some family. I'm going to stop by. At this point, I had moved out of my sister's house and was living in a place closer to work, but still drinking a lot. I said, yeah, dude, roll through. So we did, we had fun, we drank and did whatever. But he was like, oh, I got this girl I went to high school with, Caldwell, Idaho. She lives in Portland. Was thinking we could meet up, see her or whatever. And yeah, whatever. So we did, and we went out, did whatever, and Kobe left, and I I think messaged her on Facebook, maybe is how we used to talk. And then it wasn't supposed to be anything romantic, but Laura her name is Laura, and she she is a social worker. And I think when she saw me, met me, she saw the state I was in, and her social worker training kicked in, and we began talking a lot more. And I know there was some nights where I drunkenly on the phone was saying what a wasted I was, and a drunk and a washout, burnout, whatever. And without my son, I wasn't shit and all that. And she told me later how much she hated when I talked like that about myself, because she still saw something there, which I could see. And she helped me find some value in myself again. And it wasn't immediate. And I was still drinking for a lot of our early days. And my drinking almost fucked it up because, again, I was prioritizing it over everything. I know at least a couple times we were supposed to hang out, and I drank first, or I wouldn't drink instead, or something like that. And she has a kid named McCunning, whose birthday is a month earlier than Bam's. So same age, basically. And there was kind of a make or break moment where, she's like, I care about you, and I do think you have more to offer, but in the condition you're in, I can't have you around. Like, I'll be your friend, but I can't have you around my son and me. We can't just I can't let him or myself get attached to you and then you disappear, basically. And I'm sure she remembers it differently, but that's how I remember it. And, you know, and I had some thinking to do, you know, like I could see she cared about me, and I knew I wasn't living right, but I didn't know if I could pull myself out of this funk I was in, or if I even wanted to. Right. And it took a while, a couple months, and the week before Thanksgiving of that year, I quit drinking again. And this is where it gets blurry, because I remember it as one night, a conversation with her and a conversation with my cousin after I had gotten drunk again and like couldn't find my way home. It might have been a couple nights that this happened, but the way I remember it is one night. And, you know, why let the truth get in the way of a good story? And the result is the same, right? So that was I guess 9 years ago. This November, 9 years, I guess, and I haven't drank since. And I did the work myself to quit drinking. I started going to meetings and started exercising and doing all the things you're supposed to do, meditating for a while. I started having a kind of a daily gratitude, and I did the work. But Laura was so hugely important to this whole process, because I don't think she ever stopped believing me. And I can't say that, I don't know for sure if anybody ever really like gave up on me. I've never really asked my family that question, but I think people weren't sure, maybe, or didn't know how to get me there. I don't know. But yeah, I quit that week and never looked back. I didn't have any relapses. I haven't had any relapses, and Uh, yeah. So that BAMS chapter was really hard. And, but, as far down in the hard dirt as I had put myself, I started to grow again. And eventually, about a year or so in, we moved in together, me and Laura, and Kenny. And I don't know how long after that, but then Laura was pregnant. And we figured it out on Valentine's Day of that year, which would have been, I guess, 2018. So I was feeling kind of weird about it, and I wasn't sure how I felt about having a kid and also coming off of what happened with BAMS. And also, I didn't mention this earlier, not too long before BAMS passed away, a girl I was seeing had a miscarriage. And so there was this period of time where I was like, so I dated a girl that had an abortion, and then I had this kid that was miscarried, and then I had BAMS who passed away. And so in my head, I'm like, I'm just not supposed to have kids. I'm not. Something will go crazy, right? So when she said she's pregnant, or we figured it out, whatever, I was really like, oh God, what is going to happen? And also because she was like 38 or 39 at the time, or maybe 37, whatever. But that is considered a geriatric, pregnancy, and the chance of complications go up. And I just was like, yeah, was super nervous about it. And she was too, actually, for different reasons. Um, but I was feeling cursed. I thought I had this black cloud hanging over me that meant my kids don't get to survive or whatever, right? And um, so anyway, so the pregnancy was fine, and about I think it would have been like September 28th or so, or 27th. She's at work and tells me that she thinks she's going into labor or that her water broke or whatever. I think her water broke at the nurse's station at St. Vincent's. And uh, so she drove herself to St. Luke's, or not St. Luke's, St. Providence, Portland. And I met her there. Okay. I'm starting to get frustrated now because I keep getting interrupted. But I'm at the end. So let me just finish this damn thing. All right. So the day that we went into the hospital for when Che was being born, the end of September, was the anniversary of the very last time we went into the hospital with BAMS, meaning this was the time that we ended up taking him off life support. We went into the hospital for Che to be born on the anniversary of going into the hospital for the last time with BAMS. And when Che was born, which was the 30th, September 30th, he was born on the anniversary of us making the decision to take BAMS off of life support. And then, of course, BAMS passed away on October 2nd. But these two things were converging, and Che was 3 weeks early. And it was real weird to me, and I was very aware of it, but I didn't say anything to Laura at the time. And I don't know if, that was on purpose, right? If the universe wanted those things to be aligned, because, and the reason I don't know is because it makes Che's birthday a very weird time. That whole week is weird because I'm celebrating his birthday and I'm happy, and you know, I just keep seeing him grow and grow, and but I just know that 3 days later I'm going to be recognizing that his older brother died, right? Like, and I sometimes I think that in the spirit world, that the unseen world, I'll call it that, that Bams told Che to go when he did, and that would benefit me somehow because that time of year is hard. And, but like I said, it's such a confusing time, a confusing few days every year. And I think what it does is I don't know, makes me reflect. Maybe that's what that for is. Maybe I every year get to kind of re-examine my life and Bam's life and Che's life, and are things moving in the right direction? I don't know. It's a weird coincidence. Also, Bam's birthday, April 24th, Laura's April 25th. Like, I don't know, man. Are these coincidences or convergences? I don't know. It's weird. But um so yeah, now he's 7 and Che is 7, and I've been spending the last 7 years trying to be a good partner and a good dad and a good stepdad. And the stepdad thing is it's its own episode. Uh because I love McConaughey dearly, but there's also the role is different. The role is uh as a stepdad is feels more supportive than collaborative. And I never wanted to replace his dad at all. Um and I was kind of happy, not happy, I was fine doing the dirty work. Like, I didn't care if he went to his dad's and did all the fun stuff every weekend or every other weekend, and I did the battles over homework, and I didn't care. That didn't matter to me. He has a dad and he has a stepdad. I thought it was good he had both. And I won't get too much into what is going on with his dad, but it's not really in the picture now. And since Che has been born, the dynamic between me and McConaughey has changed. And McConaughey went from being the oldest, or to being the only, then to being, I don't know. It's just complicated, and uh it's he's gone through some things, and I honestly, if it was Che going through something similar when he gets to that age, probably would handle it differently because the dynamic is different. But anyways, that's a whole nother thing. So, I mean, this is supposed to be a letter to Che, basically. And now my phone's kind of dying. I tried to be an actor and a wrestler and a podcaster and a soldier and a rapper. And the dad role is the only one I think I've been able to nail down, and naturally. And I think that's what I'm supposed to do. And I think if you blow up and be you, Che, blow up and be everything I think you can be, then I think that my life played out exactly as it was supposed to play out. Uh, Laura and McCunny and my family and my friends, you know, they helped me heal some parts of me that were broke. And those parts being healed helped me get to where I'm at now, which is being the best dad to you I can be. And I'm not perfect at it. I mean, I still have a temper, you know? I'm not a great communicator. I can be kind of moody, kind of sulky, but I know that I would do anything I had to do for you to be happy, for you to succeed, for you to survive, for you to thrive. And uh, the reason for this podcast is because I want people to be able to tell stories, and I want people to share their stories, and I want their stories to be heard. And natives are storytelling people. And um, if you're ever wondering who you are or where you're from, then I want you to be able to hear this or watch this, and it can be part of your story too. Because I think you're going to have a great story. And I think you can, as many times as I've tried to rewrite the chapters of my own life and even escape the book itself, all of these chapters have added up to me sitting here today, being your dad, which is a very big honor for me. And I just want you to know that you can listen to this and see that you can make mistakes, you can fall down, you can get knocked down, you can drop the ball, all the things, and it's okay. Our people fight and pray and laugh, and we give each other stories to tell forever. And I've always told you that. I've always told you your ancestors have your back, right? Just want you to know that so do I, and I always will.